I just have to jump in here and say I was never down on Keon. I think
nobody was
talent.
down
We
on
all
Keon.
from the very.
Hold on. Listen.
I don't like that narrative.
Yeah,
I see what you're doing there, buddy. I see what you're doing there.
Wait, so Phil can be hyping DJ Lundy. You got Renardo Green. I can't be the first one that said he's my guy. I can't. I didn't say you were against him.
We all said that he's a top 3 talent on the team.
Yes, we all said he was.
Whoa, the record will show. The record will show.
The record will show that I say it was 1A and 1B when it came to him and Wilson.
Yeah.
It's 3rd and 0. We came together, all 3 of us reaching for one common goal. This is our show. Listen, you might get perspective of something that you didn't know. We gonna go all the way real with the topics. When you see Witty, P. Austin, and Crockett, pressure good blisters, we stay in the pocket. Picture the run to the quarterback option. Organic process, listen and watch us. Everyone welcome, this is our casa. 1st and goal, 2nd we throw. Short a few yards, 3rd and 0.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a post-LSU beatdown edition of 3rd and 0. Man, here we are, Labor Day, the Monday after the FSU-LSU game. The 3 of us are checking in. We're going to give some firsthand exposure and experience about what it was like in Orlando. We're going to talk about things we did like, maybe some things we didn't like during the game. But here we are. Let's talk about it. Hey, glorious beatdown. Croc, first thing I want to know what it was like in Orlando. I'm talking about walking to the stadium. I'm talking about the crowd, the noise. Like, I want to hear what Orlando was like pregame. Talk to me.
Yes, I live here in the Orlando area, and so I wanted to just kind of take it all in. So I headed down to the stadium area about 3 o'clock. And I really just walked around, got me a little barbecue, went back to the car, just relaxed, just really tried to just soak it all in. And I began to text you all. And I was like, yo, this is really feeling like a home game. The streets were just full of Garnet. I mean, you could just sense that, yeah, we're going to really pull up. So I hung out, kind of just soaked it all in. I went into the stadium. I think the stadium opened at like 5:30. I went into the stadium, wanted to see some of the warm-ups, just see how everybody was just feeling. Everybody looked loose warming up. And then slowly and surely, everybody began to trickle into the stadium. And just as I sensed, and what we all kind of knew, that this was going to be a home game, it became a reality. I was sitting behind the LSU side, second level, decent seats, maybe around the 30-yard line. And it was all Garnet, man. The Florida State side was full of Garnet. It was nothing but Garnet, maybe 1 or 2 speckles of purple. And on LSU side, in the lower level, I guess what the boosters were, that was pretty purplish, but everywhere else, it was us. And we let them know that we were there. The atmosphere was electric. The flyover really kind of just set the tone. And it felt like we were at Doak. And the team responded. And even Coach Norvell commented just on how the crowd was there to really support the Noles. We believe we're here locked in, and we're supporting our Noles.
Phil, what did Brian Kelly say pregame about the attendance?
It was a partisan crowd. Partisan crowd.
Rather partisan crowd.
Rather partisan crowd.
He looked at his assistant coach and just knew Garnet and gold was in the house, and I love to hear it. The war chant played loud, man. Shout out to Croc and any of the listeners who went to the game. It was pretty obvious that there was a decided advantage in attendance between the two. So, gentlemen, 45-24 exceeded all of our expectations from a spread. First half was a little dicey. Let's talk about the first half first. I mean, heck, we can start with the opening drive, right? LSU gets the kickoff, and I'll be honest with you, had a little unsettled feeling. I was nervous anyway, just because it was game 1, right? But when they took that wheel route, first play from scrimmage, I was like, here we go again.
Yeah. Like you said, I was already nervous. Definitely had the pregame butterflies for this one because I felt like this was the first time we've been on a big stage with expectations. It's quite a while. Yeah, man. Two plays there in the red zone, and you're just like, okay, here we go again. Like, here we go again. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, we're just so prone to the big play after big play at some point every game last season. So it was just that, okay, here we go again feeling for me.
Yeah. Go ahead, Croc.
I was going to take another direction, so go ahead. I know you want to stack.
No. So I was just going to say that I did get that uneasy feeling, and here we go again. And after 3 plays, they're not only in the red zone, but they're like knocking on the end zone. I was like, this is what we can't have to start this game. And I wasn't too worried about them scoring a touchdown on their first drive because it's all about the response at that point, right? My thing was, especially after the first big play, that wheel route was, we can't give up. We can't do this all night, and consecutive. We can't do it consecutively. And they did. Like they did the long wheel route, and the very next play was a pretty big positive gaining play. So fast forward, they get down to the 5-yard line. Let's call it first and goal at the 5. And boy, did our defense show up. Croc, talk about it.
Yeah, we all had anxiety leading up to this game. The wheel route, it didn't really bother me too much because it was clearly a blown assignment. And I felt like, okay, even if LSU, I didn't think that we would get this stop. But I was like, even if they score, it just means that we're going to be the scoring is getting ready to start happening sooner than I thought. But, man, they get down there in the red zone and the defense, I think so long we waited to see the defense be able to shut down goal line, right? But not only were we able to stop run attempts, but he couldn't throw the ball either. So, man, Fuller, that was a great defensive stance. And you said something, I don't know if it was in the text or when, Whitty, but you talked about all offseason, coach has been talking about responding. And after giving up those 2 significant plays, defense responded.
I mean, it's not going to go down like the Kansas Jayhawks stand back in, what was that, 92, 93? The opening game against Kansas when we made 9 or 10 stops inside the 3-yard line. That's an all-time defensive stand. And Derek Brooks came up huge play after play during that defensive stand. But let's be honest, they had 6 plays inside the 5-yard line, and Florida State's defense really bowed up and just they held strong, man. So to keep them out of the end zone on that first drive was monumental. It was monumental because we'll talk a little bit more about the first half and the defense as a whole, but that didn't set a tone. I would like to say that set a tone for the game, but it didn't because the rest of the first half, there was still some shaky moments. But man, the whole bend don't break, and we saw that a lot from Fuller last year. They did not break, and they showed up when they needed to. And just DJ Lundy, what? The new slim, svelte DJ Lundy had some impact in that first defensive drive. Phil, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I mean, speaking first half, I think, one, DJ Lundy, I've been the leader of his fan club. So I'm telling you, man,
Hey, wait, shouldn't I take over the baton?
No.
Because he's on my,
you stole him. I don't want to talk about it. You stole him in the draft. So be quiet. You were trying to be real funny.
Right. Okay.
Stole him. But I mean, I think the difference from last year to this year with Lundy is for the amount of snaps he played replacing Bethune, nobody was concerned, right? Nobody was worried about a drop-off. Nobody was worried about, oh, no, there's something wrong with Bethune, anything like that. It's like, no, Lundy, thanks to, what he's done as far as losing weight and getting his body right, but more importantly, the development, from the staff, like, Lundy is a real player. He's not playing out of necessity. He's a player. And he's somebody that, I don't know, like, I would say he is pretty close to bringing just about the same things Bethune brings to the table right now, except maybe better in coverage at this point.
I would argue that I know Tatum Bethune had more tackles. I mean, he was the leading tackler last year. That shouldn't surprise anybody. And he led the game in tackles last night. But DJ Lundy, to me, passed the eye test as our best linebacker last night. He looked amazing. I still don't I think Deloach over pursues. I think he was out of position a little bit. And so last year the problem was we had Lundy and Deloach over pursuing or out of position. I think some of it was Lundy's lack of athleticism, but he's corrected that. And he's done so in a major way. So shout out to the linebacking room. Overall, they took a big step from what we saw last year. And I think a lot of that has to do with DJ Lundy.
Agreed. The floor has been raised. And like you said, there was no drop off as they're rotating guys in. You're not worried. You're not saying, oh, no. And not that Lundy, was ever a bad linebacker. He always gave effort, but he did the work in the offseason to not only improve physically, but it seems as though the game has really slowed down for him and he's able to react. And so it's just good to see him, playing at this level. Again, hat goes off to the coaching staff to be able to identify this young man in a time period when a lot of people didn't want to come to Florida State because of where the program was, but they saw potential in this young man, and he's been helping us out over the years, and now he's really has improved tremendously.
Agreed. So we get the stop. We hold them out of the end zone, and I can't express how big that stop was. Again, like your point earlier, Croc, they score, that just starts the onslaught of scoring, right? I think a lot of people predicted this to be a back and forth game. But so we get the ball, and in that first drive, Jordan Travis looked like Jordan Travis of last year, right? I mean, he methodically picked his spots. He moved in the pocket, and then he found number 4, and we're going to talk a lot about him now, not only all season, but we're going to talk a lot about him today. But Keon Coleman, and that first pass, he showed every bit about what the hype was about, right? And I think a few weeks ago, you guys can say what you want to say, but I was the front runner on the Keon Coleman hype train, and my man did not disappoint. First touchdown was 40, 42 yards, something like that. Body control, speed, hands, all of it. Touchdown. 7-0 Noles.
I just have to jump in here and say I was never down on Keon. I think
nobody
talent,
was down
we
on
all
Keon.
from the very.
Hold on, listen.
I don't like that narrative.
Yeah,
I see what you're doing there, buddy. I see what you're doing there.
Wait, so Phil can be hyping DJ Lundy. You got Renardo Green. I can't be the first one that said he's my guy. I can't. No, I didn't say you were against him.
We all said that he's a top 3 talent on the team.
Yes, we all said he was.
Whoa, the record will show. The record will show.
The record will show that I say it was 1A and 1B when it came to him and Wilson.
Yeah.
And Croc said the same thing.
I said he's a top 3 talent on the team.
Yeah,
I had him.
What are you doing?
Let's go back and listen to impact.
It was impact
right now.
We were talking about the top 20 impact.
Like you're not finna. No, you're not.
And our argument was that the team was already offensively elite. Yeah, that was our argument. We were excited about Poitier.
He tried to sneak one in. That's not sliding.
We all was doing backflips.
Stop it.
Excuse me. Our listeners know the truth here. Our listeners know the truth, and they're going to agree that I was the one. I had him at number 3 on the top 20.
Impact.
Nobody said.
And we were wrong. I think.
But we said last episode we would have moved him up. But nobody was doubting.
We all say, he's elite talent, bro.
My exact quote was, he's probably at worst, he's 1B to Wilson's 1A. And I also said when it comes to NFL draft potential, Keon has more potential when it comes to NFL.
Yeah,
I didn't say that. I'll agree with that.
And even going to the point when I said he really is a jump ball specialist, and Phil was like, no, he can do it all.
Yes. So I claim the Lundy.
He did jump ball though. He did jump ball.
I claim the Lundy train because when he was still wearing number 46
as a freshman.
And Croc was telling me,
whoa, chill out. You
don't gotta telling me he need to lose weight. He need to lose weight.
Come on, bro.
I was still on the Lundy train.
Yeah, that's not the same. You gotta try again.
My Lundy presidency is 3 years in the running, bro. You're not getting that Coleman noise.
Everybody in the nation wanted Coleman when he was coming out of Michigan State. That ain't no big take.
It's I was the front runner on of the three of us.
No,
three of us.
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Now we just got well off track, and I'm going to beat that drum all season long.
I feel like we're on track.
Yeah, well. Very much so. Very much so. We're not going to do that.
I mean,
top three talent. Right. We said that top three talent on the team. That means Jordan Travis versus him, or somebody may say JT Benson him, but he's the top three. He's a top three talent on that team, and we saw it. We saw it live and direct. I was wrong. His impact is top three impact.
Just
also.
Real quick, for the record, I feel like both of you guys had Johnny Wilson ahead of him in your impact players.
Impact, yes, we did.
I didn't.
Yeah, okay. You said he had a better impact. Doesn't mean that we weren't high on him.
Okay, all right.
About? There is a difference between impact and top players.
Okay.
You don't think so?
You don't think so? All right, let's move on. So we go up 7-0. The first offensive drive looks great. Then they come right back. Not surprisingly, they come right back and do their thing. I mean, I think they had 9 plays, 75 yards, right? And when they scored their touchdown on the next drive.
Was that drive a lot of penalties? I'm trying to remember.
The whole first half was penalties.
The entire first half. We're going to talk about that in a second.
It was horrible.
That was not that drive. I think it was the next drive. So they go down and score to make it 7-7. We get the ball back and go quickly 3 and out.
No, I think it was that drive. On that drive that they scored, I believe there were two 15-yard penalties, I believe. Or one 15-yard penalty and something else called. But there are at least 2 penalties on that drive, their first scoring drive.
So
I'm looking at it here. That first drive, they had a couple big plays.
Yeah, they had a 33-yard pass. So this is the second drive. Their second drive. Remember? Second drive. They had that big 33-yard pass to Lacey to get down to the 1. I'm pretty sure it was the following series. Anyway.
Yeah, Lacey 33 yards. He got down to the first. Yeah.
So let's go. They come back and score 7-7 after we punt. And again, man, here I am thinking, we go up 7-0. They come back 7-7, and then we punt. Right. I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be back and forth. We can't be punting the ball. They come back and we hold them on another 4th down. And again, just incredible play on our 4th down defense was just unbelievable. So in the first half, you look at everything. Florida State, it almost became a back and forth. Like we ended up with an interception, an awful interception by JT. Gives them short field. They had, what was the stat? They showed it in the first half. They played like 19 plays on our side of the 50. We had like 3 or something like that. I mean, it was
2,
pretty.
Yeah, 2 up when they showed that graphic, it was 19-2 as far as plays on the opponent's side of the field.
So the game's tied. It goes back to LSU. Jaden Daniels busts off a 40-yard run, and I don't think anybody's surprised by that. It's what Jaden Daniels does. It sets them up. They get all the way down to the FSU 11 because they had a short field position. And then they go ahead and Noah Cain scores a touchdown to put them up 14-7. So Florida State gets the ball back. And at this point, we did some fluky things. Like we had that screen pass to Keon Coleman was the very first play. And we lost 4. So we're behind the chain, 2nd and 14. I feel like at this point, we need to address the Johnny Wilson hand situation. We saw it last year. I kind of feel like we were led to believe this offseason that it was better. Johnny Wilson is an amazing talent. He, as evidenced by this game, right? An absolutely incredible talent. Incredible talent. If he were to clean up the drops, he could be an elite talent, an unguardable talent. It's Jekyll and Hyde. I really need him to get that fixed because he dropped 2 surefire first downs. And in a game like this, especially in the first half, you can't do that.
And, it'll be interesting to kind of look at some of their advanced metrics, and stuff like that. But it just seems like the slant route is just not his cup of tea. I think he has a better percentage of catching the ball when the ball travels for a longer distance, like deep route, outs. But those slants, I don't know if he's afraid of the contact. I don't know if he's thinking about moving. I don't know what it is, but quick slants, he dropped those, man. He made a tough low grab on a what was it a crossing route or a dig or an in route, but
Well, I think Corey Clark pointed out that at one point he had 7 receptions, all 7 of them went for first downs, right? And that's what I mean. That's the Jekyll and Hyde that you have with him, because he will make the catch that you need him to make. He drops the catch you need him to make.
That's what you call impact. Go ahead.
Impact. Well, speaking of impact, we get down to just a couple minutes left in the first half. Florida State's down 14-7. Croc, I don't know if you saw this at the stadium. We run a play, I think, to Benson. It's up the middle, didn't do much. Keon Coleman points at the DB, waves to the sideline, and points to the end zone. He called his shot. The very next play, now it was a different defensive back, they rotated coverage, but the very next play, Keon Coleman catches a 21-yard touchdown.
He called it.
Barbecue chicken.
Toasty. He mossed him. He called his shot. Croc?
No, I didn't see that. Did they? You saw it live? Or was it a replay?
I saw it live. I saw it live, and I texted immediately, like, he called for that.
I saw that in the thread.
Yeah, he called for it and then did it. And I'll send you a link so you can go back and watch it. It's just incredible. Like, he calls a shot.
And you watch, it looks like he mistimed his jump, but he literally mossed him while he was cramping up.
I think that throw. So we've kind of navigated through the drives, but we've kind of left out some of the emotions.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's talk about it. And it's no secret, I am emotional. I am emotional. I don't mind taking a wild take, but at this point of the game, I'm pretty emotional.
I think we all were.
I'm trying to figure out what is going on, because we all preseason, fall camp, summer, we've been talking about an elite offense, and at this point, it wasn't on display. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Norvell throughout the years has really been known for 2 things, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the running game and taking shots downfield. And we really didn't have a lot of shots downfield. We saw Coleman early on. And I'm like, when are we going to go deep? When are we going to run the ball, either use Jordan as a threat, or run the ball with Benson, or take some shots? And then when Coleman grabbed that long shot, I was like, okay, fine. This is what I'm talking about. We need more of this.
Yeah. So I was, like I said, we were all emotional. I don't think I wasn't on that train as far as we need to throw the ball deep, because I felt like LSU was giving us exactly what we needed. And that was, you're taking your best athlete, your best pass rusher, and you're using him as a spy. So you're not rushing him, and you're not even putting him in a position to make plays. Because we all know from the FSU side that as elite as Jordan Travis is with his legs, he doesn't want to use his legs. So essentially, you're taking one guy, you're not allowing him to rush the passer, and you're not allowing him to cover anybody technically either. So it's like, okay, if that's the case, you're giving us the middle of the field. So I was okay with it because of that reason, because their best athlete, the only person on their side of the ball that could truly affect the game, they were making him null and void without us having to do anything. My issue, one, I was 1 foot on the Fuller train with you. I was 1 foot on the Fuller train with you because, and I believe we were texting about this because that 3rd and 15, I know you were there in person and you were like, a certain person shouldn't have been in the game to hold up the edge. So what I was trying to explain to you, because me and Whitty could see it from home, is on the replay, they showed it from behind the LSU offensive side of the ball. And literally from their center to his left, there were seven FSU defenders because LSU overloaded one side. There were 7 FSU defenders, and literally to the center's right, there's 2 guys on the line and the safety. There's no cornerback on that side. There's just 2 guys on the line and the safety. So literally, the 2 guys, of course, the 2 guys on the line, they get taken care of. You see the receiver immediately released, and he's going straight to the third level to block the safety, and you pick up a first down on a run. And so that was my problem. And then I feel like Johnny Wilson was the biggest reason we were down going into halftime. I feel like his 2 drops forced Jordan Travis for a small window. We began to see the old
impact.
Yeah, 7 for 102. We began to see the old Jordan Travis from 2 years ago that was pressing and that was indecisive. And that's when you saw the ugly screen pass, the other screen pass that was ugly that resulted in an interception. Because at this point, we're pressing. He's pressing because Johnny Wilson's dropping the ball and we're losing. And now we're behind the 8 ball. And it's like these things are starting to compile. But at the same time, that small window was just that, a small window.
Listen, I agree. That little jump pass that he tried to do that he had no business doing, that was very out of character for Jordan Travis.
Yes, he was pressing.
So I agree with you. And to your point, the way that our offense, it was concerning, quite honestly. Everybody knew at that point in the game what LSU was about to do, apparently, except our defensive coordinator and our defensive end, who lost containment. It was kind of inexcusable to give that play up in that moment. It happened. It is what it is. But I think that the 2 concerns I had, they got some chunk plays in the first half. You know, you look at the wheel route, you look at the Daniels run, you look at the Lacey reception. Those were concerning. And I'm not going to listen. So, Croc, I don't know. They showed the stat in the first half. They were Big 12 officials. They were not ACC or SEC. Apparently, both games last year in New Orleans, this year in Orlando, it was Big 12 officials. I was just wondering when LSU was going to get flagged for anything. And I was really curious what the vibe was in the stadium because it was pretty. There were a couple of instances, and there was one play where they called Knowles for a hit out of bounds, right? They threw a flag, and it happened on the LSU sideline. It was a late hit, not egregious, but it was a late hit. But what was crazy to me is, and they showed this on TV, the side judge on the same side that play happened threw a flag and immediately was holding up a holding symbol.
Yeah, right? We saw that. We saw 2 flags.
He immediately, and he was showing holding. So it was the hold happened right in front of him. It was the outside receiver holding one of our DBs. And when the head ref comes to call the foul, the penalty, they waved off the hold and only called the late hit. Now, it would not have been an offsetting situation. It would have been 10 yards back for the holding and then 15 yards for the late hit. It still would have been a 5-yard net gain for them. But it was mind-blowing to me how obvious, in my mind, the disparity was in the penalty calls in the first half.
It was we felt it in the stands. We were asking the question. That's why I was texting the thread. Who are these refs? That's the reason why I was asking you. Are they ACC? Are they SEC? Because in the stands, we were like, what in the world is going on? Because we saw the first flag, a hold. We were all saying, oh, it's coming back, it's coming back, it's coming back. And then we saw the late hit, which was late, and then they come back and wave off a hold. How do you wave off a hold? You didn't see what you saw?
Right. Now, here's the interesting thing. Now, you at the game didn't realize this or didn't see this, but when they did the flyover, they had the ESPN camera right here on the head ref's face. Okay, right upon him. He looks up and he's smiling, and the commentator, Chris Fowler, I think, was explaining how the pilot in the aircraft was the brother of the head ref.
We're both from Louisiana. Don't worry about it.
He was a colonel in the Louisiana National Guard.
How does that happen?
Come on, man. So I was texting with Paul, and
how does that happen?
Hey, Big 12, unbiased, right? Like, so yeah, they went on to talk about how the head ref's brother was a colonel in the Louisiana National Guard, and he was in the plane, and he even looked up and said, "That's my bro," like, okay, cool. Okay. And I was like, it made sense. The light bulb came on. Like, that makes a lot of sense why there's such disparity.
A lot of sense. And maybe somebody in the locker room said, hey, like, you need to chill out, because second half it did look a little different.
Yeah, I was getting ready to file my grievance with the NCAA at halftime. I had my letter typed up when
it wouldn't have worked.
You're right. But to your point, second half, they did calm that down and called it a little bit more equally. Another play that happened in the first half.
Maybe even in our favor, some of those calls.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I did not like the non-call on the Jordan Travis slide.
The slide, right?
Like, that was how they didn't throw a flag there. If it's all about player safety, right? And somebody said that he started his tackle motion before the slide started. But if you look at the replay, that's 100% not what happened. So anyway, it was just one of those things that the officiating in the first half was mind-blowingly bad. And after they said that little snippet about the guy's brother, I was like,
makes sense.
We overcame it. Second half, we open up with the field goal to tie the game, right? Which is, hey, what we needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, I don't know. So Phil and I were talking at halftime, and I asked Phil, I said, is the first half defense the floor or the ceiling for what this season's defense is going to look like? Are we playing a really, really good offense that has a mobile quarterback and some good receivers, et cetera? We held them to 17 in the first half, but man, it didn't feel like we were winning the line of scrimmage. Right. I know protection was sliding toward Verse. I know Verse was getting double teamed. Fisk has got a motor.
He does.
The kid was all over the place. I would have liked to have seen more from Verse in the first half, but I understand why he made an impact, I guess, in a different way. That's not going to show up in the stat book for this game.
I mean, when it comes to Verse, like, it's for what he was up against, I feel like he delivered. Like, the same, yes, he was pretty much matched up against the same tackle from last year that was a freshman, but that tackle this year is viewed as one of the top tackles in the country. And it technically was awarded LSU's number 7, but because he's an offensive lineman, he can't wear it. That's what they think of this guy. But so I think Verse, he did his job. Like, he got pressures, right? There was one sack that was changed to an incomplete pass, and down the stretch, he got another sack and pressures when it mattered. I think he delivered. I mean, I wouldn't say he dominated, but from an NFL draft perspective, they're going to say this is him going up against an NFL caliber tackle, and this is what he did. He won the night.
Listen, I like Jared Verse a lot. I disagree with you here. I feel like I get it. They slid protections. They did double team him. He was going against an elite tackle, but he's an elite defensive end, right? And they're talking about Jared Verse being a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. And I just wanted to see more for him. I think as the game went on, he got tired because he was laid off the ball in a couple of instances. I wanted to see more. I wanted to see a better stat line. He did not have a sack in the scorebook. He had the one sack that ended up being an incomplete pass, but that he had 2 tackles for the game, and that was it. And so I wanted to see more production in spite of everything they threw at him, in spite of that left tackle. I just wanted to see more production from number 5.
I think it's a product of your other DN, your other guys on the line have to step up, right? When we talk about, it's almost like Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, right? You can't double Johnny Wilson anymore because you now have Keon Coleman on the other side. If somebody else on that D line is consistently getting pressure, you can't slide protection first. You can't. If everybody else on that line is winning their one-on-ones and applying pressure, you no longer can slide protection verse.
And I get it, and I'm not saying I understand that he did his job.
You just expected him to leave the game with that stat line.
I wanted him to be more productive. That's all. He did his job. Listen, we collapsed the run. Our rush defense was elite. Outside of a couple busted plays, our rushing defense was elite, and that is not by accident. That is due in large part to what Verse did. I just wanted more production. I think that someone of his caliber player with the preseason accolades, I just wanted to see a better stat line. That's all.
I think the same way we're feeling, and I'm actually with you, Whitney, on this one. It's probably how teams are looking. LSU's fans are looking at Perkins. You know, he did his job. He did his job of spying Travis, but you're used to him being disruptive.
Correct. Yes.
I think that's the feeling that we have. Like when we start the season off knowing that we have 5 coming back, we just want to see him in the backfield, sack after sack, run down after tackle. But I don't think that was necessarily the game plan. But I will say this, it did seem like he was a little winded. He was gassed.
I think what we also have to keep in mind, and I don't know if it'll change as the season goes on. Like last year, Verse played the weak side, and Peyton was his backup. He intentionally added weight because he wanted to be better playing the run. So in order for him and Peyton to be on the field at the same time, Verse most of the time this game is not playing the strong side. So Peyton can be on the field. So I don't know how much that will affect things. I think we'll see a little bit more.
His stats are going to come. Like he's too good of a player. His stats will come. Like I think that strong side or weak side, his stats will come.
It just depends. I just feel like if you're lining him up on the strong side every time, meaning he's probably seeing a tackle and a tight end or two, you might have to revert back to like only playing Peyton on those passing downs, so that Verse can be as disruptive as we want him to be. But I mean, again, it's one game. Honestly, I think that he prefers to be on the strong side because I think this is how he raises his NFL value.
And how many teams are going to have that caliber?
Bingo. And let me say this. I don't think a defensive end not named Jared Verse has anywhere near the impact on the game, right? So I'm not saying he was not impactful. I think he was indeed very impactful. Again, I just look at the stat line. That's all. That's my point. It's not a cause for concern. It is just one game. It is against one of the best offensive linemen he's going to see all season, if not the best offensive tackle he's going to see all season. I just wanted a little bit more.
No, I'm with you.
And just to kind of circle back to what you said during the game in the text thread, because I was like, I want pressure. And you were like, I'd rather see proper containment and decent coverage. And I think Verse really showed his maturity and growth because he wasn't hunting the sack.
Yeah. So, you're right. And it's an elite quarterback when it comes to his legs, right? So we witnessed last year what it looks like when we go all out on the pressure. I mean, he rushes for 100+ yards. So I think that's something also that's in the back of their mind. But I mean, when we're talking second half, I mean, I think we start to see the response, right? I believe I sent the text at halftime. I said, look, we've heard about response, right? All off season. I said, if we respond the way that we've been hearing, we're going to win by 2 scores. I said, if we don't respond, we're losing by 3.
You said it.
I think
I cited Whitty. I think I cited Whitty for that comment earlier, but I think it might have
you knew he was going to jump in and claim it though. At some point, he was waiting for the opportunity.
Oh no, I thought he was talking about a different moment. I really thought he was talking about a different moment.
No, you did say that, and you did say if we come back and respond, we'll win by multiple scores. And listen, we can talk. We don't even, in my opinion, need to break down the entire second half. Jordan Travis was Jordan Travis of 2022.
Jay Himothy.
Keon Coleman continued to do his thing. Another thing in the second half, and listen, you brought the point up earlier, Croc, and I kind of said the same thing, and I agree with you. I did want to take some shots down the field. Phil, you're right. We took what the defense was giving us, and having Perkins in that role opened up things in the middle. I wanted to, for the same reason you continue running the ball to pull the defense in, I feel like every now and then you have to try one over the top to keep the safeties back, right? I feel like that's part or should be part of the game plan. But I cannot overstate 2 things about our offense, really in the whole game, but primarily in the second half. an immense amount of credit goes to Atkins and Norvell for scheming around Perkins. He was an absolute non-factor, and I get it. Brian Kelly in the postgame interview almost seemed to minimize that he switched roles and he's learning. And, well, yeah, you could have said see ball, get ball, right? Like you could have switched him back and let him be the disruptor. But Atkins and Norvell schemed around him in the offseason, and he was complete. His name wasn't mentioned. He was a non-issue in this game. But the second thing, and this goes back to last year, and really, I think some of this was growth in Norvell, but Mike Norvell, as a play caller, is elite in setting plays up late in the game. The way that he set our offense up. Now, granted, Jordan Travis got comfortable. The receiver started catching the ball. But moving Bell to the backfield and having that two-back set, running the counter off of that, running clock, but setting plays up for later in the game, Mike Norvell is an elite play caller in that regard. And I don't know, you have offensive geniuses that are out there, Lincoln Riley, et cetera. Mike Norvell is an elite play caller.
Oh, yeah. And I think we've known it. I think the expectation of his play calling from us and the fans is high. And I think that's why when we saw the offense kind of sputter in the first half, we were kind of like, what's going on here? But you're right. When he's dialed in, it's few. And now he has the pieces to play with. So, man, again. But I want to circle back, though, because you said Atkins. I thought you were going another direction, not taking a knock at the play calling, but the offensive line. Like, Jordan stayed clean against a legitimate defensive front. Yes, we know they were missing their number one D tackle, but
hey, real quick, thank God, because that other number, what was it, 12?
8, 18.
18?
He was a problem.
He is an elite tackle. That kid was wow.
Yeah, he was. He was. But, man, to see what this offensive line is now, it just blows my mind that this team, this coaching staff is able now to call plays with the mindset, okay, Jordan's going to have time. Whereas before, everything was a shot play because we weren't going to be able to block up anything, So
at this moment, Croc, you're 100% right about our offensive line. And Bless Harris arguably was our best offensive line last night.
I'm sorry, what?
Bless Harris was arguably our best offensive lineman against LSU.
Phil, what about you? What's your take on that?
I would just like to say that even though we were right that Robert Scott was going to start, I will take this opportunity to give you your kudos because you stood on the Bless Harris hill, and even though you died on it,
I did.
You do get a bit of restitution because
I'm resurrected, brother.
I won't go that far. This isn't Easter. I won't go that far. But I would say that, and this Lord willing, Robert Scott is healthy and it's nothing crazy. But one, FSU promised and told us all offseason they're going to play 8 offensive linemen. They're comfortable with 8. That's what they're going to do. But Bless Harris played a lot of snaps, and there was no drop off. There was 0 drop off.
I tell you what, a shout out to Keandre Jones too, as someone who we've not yet seen. Casey Roddick as well. Just a couple of guys that we had not yet seen play in Garnet Gold.
Yes.
Keandre Jones was a difference maker in the second half, especially when we had the Jaheim Bell, Benson backfield. That kid was moving bodies.
Yeah.
And he made a difference. And I think Casey Roddick in the first half was important. Our offensive line played at an elite level. And
It did.
I think that as you look at this season, that could make a difference between how this season progresses versus years past, right? Like having all the offensive pieces we have, to your point, Croc, didn't mean a whole lot if your quarterback is scrambling for his life. I mean, Dalvin Cook Cam Akers made chicken salad out of chicken poop because he was getting touched in the backfield every play. You put somebody, I mean, it's just unbelievable what a good offensive line can do and how it can settle an offense as a whole.
To that point, I think that, I mean, we all can agree that there were lulls specifically in the first half, but second half, we feel we we were able to see what 23 FSU would be, which is what we expected, except for one thing. And when you talk about Norvell's play calling, this is another adjustment I think he made that was huge. Number one, I mean, we witnessed against Oklahoma last year, right? He was hell-bent on running, and he was not going to go away from that to the second half.
I like it.
This year, this game, we weren't having much success running the ball, right? And he was okay with that. But more importantly, when he made up his mind that we were going to run the ball, Trey wasn't getting it done. So let's plug in LT and Rodney Hill. Let's put Jaheim Bell from tight end slot to the backfield, like you said, and we're going to make it work. I'm not going to beat my head against the wall and try to get Trey Benson his yards or hope Trey Benson, gets on a run. No, like I know my personnel. I know what I need, what changes I need to make, what plays I need to plug in. And that second half, our rushing success was, yes, going to the two-back set, but that first back wasn't Trey Benson most of the time. It was LT or Rodney Hill.
Shout out to the young running back. Young, I say young. I feel like Toafili is not young anymore, but shout out to the backup running backs. I'll say it that way. I mean, you think a year ago, Toafili and Rodney Hill were third and fourth string. Those guys played very, very well and arguably set a tone for the second half that allowed us to score 35 straight.
Absolutely. And to see Rodney Hill deliver punishment at the end of that run, it just really, for everybody, my brother's a Florida Gator fan. And all we hear is this SEC, that. But Rodney showed, like, this team is built to play big boy football, whether that's in the SEC, the Big Ten, up against the Clemsons of ACC. Like, and Rodney Hill, shout out, hats off to this young man for stepping in and getting it done. No, the stat line is not great, but he was productive, and we ran enough to get the job done. This is an elite defensive front. With good linebackers also. So if we're able to do this against LSU, other teams better beware.
Agree. And I'm with it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, man. And then, I mean, we expected Jaheim Bell to be a Swiss Army knife just from the roles he played in South Carolina. But even just watching play to play, like, he lined up at every offensive position except O-line and quarterback.
Facts. And you can see he's going to be a problem this year because now anybody else on our schedule, you've got to account for that guy. Like, that's what we heard. We heard that he's a Swiss Army knife. We saw it in action. And
but I mean, even when you hear about it, like, for example, like, okay, he's going to play slot time to time. No, probably 65% of the plays he was in the slot. Like, I'm out here in the slot, bring your cornerback or safety here, and I'm about to give him the business. Like, Jaheim Bell, he's going to do some big things down the road. He's going to do some major things down the road.
There's so much that we still haven't seen in this Norvell offense. We haven't seen wheel routes really since 2 years ago. We didn't see them all last year, really. We haven't seen a fake screen, right? Like, somebody slipped the wide receiver screen and go to that. There's so much that we haven't seen, and I can see Coach kind of stacking and saving some things. I want to just give a little shout out to my guy, Span. Man, he got a little dicey on that reverse pass.
Hey, a little spicy, a little spicy.
And in the audience, I was like, bro, what are you doing?
Hey, he made that into something, and people may not remember that at Illinois, he was recruited and went to Illinois as a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And so he looked, let's just say it could have turned out really, really bad.
But
it could have turned out really, really bad. But he looked very comfortable when he threw that ball on the run.
He did.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I'll take it.
And you know what?
I will take it.
LSU now, I'm not LSU, but Clemson now has to spend time, identifying him as a pass threat too. So I think Norvell put enough out there to get people thinking. But overall, man, it's so much to talk about, so much to be excited about.
Bro.
And just going into this game, fellas, I like to listen to podcasts. I like to listen to Florida State podcasts and even our opponents, especially when it's a big game. And all I was hearing from, some of the LSU podcasts was, this is not the same team that Florida State faced last year. Perkins didn't even play in the game. The offensive linemen, we started 2 freshmen left tackles and this and that. And I kept saying to myself, this isn't the same Florida State team either. We had a Verse who was playing for the first time, not necessarily his first time against Power 5 competition, because he's played against a couple Power 5 teams before, but he's still relatively new to this thing, and has learned a whole lot. Our linebackers aren't playing at the same level either. And this offense is surely not the same offense that we had last year. And that O-line ain't the same either. I kept saying, y'all might have gotten better, but so have we. And LSU, I know you're supposed to root for your team, and I'm glad that they're faithful to their team. But a lot of them didn't even see it as a potential of them losing this game. And I'm sitting back and I'm saying, this is not the Florida State team that y'all faced last year.
Yeah. So I want to do a couple shout outs, kind of some unheralded guys that were impactful in terms of what they brought to last night's game, but also they're probably not going to make the front page of the Tallahassee Democrat. Okay. And what I mean by that is, shout out to Josh Farmer. Shout out to Dennis Briggs.
Yeah.
Briggs played a hell of a ball game. Just a hell of a ball game. Shout out to our entire special teams. Fitzpatrick did what he had to do in extra points and field goals.
I don't know. Could we let that one punt bounce to the one?
Okay. So notwithstanding that one miscue, I'm talking specifically, look at our kickoff unit, look at our field goals, and look at our punting. So Mastromano, Fitzmagic. Again, you just look at some of these guys that Gilbert Edmond looked good. I didn't know what to expect from him, but Gilbert Edmond looked really good last night. So just a couple things. And I kind of, you guys have any other closing comments on the Clemson game or on the LSU game? Because I have just 2 more things that we can do before we close the pod out.
I mean, you kind of hinted to it, but I just want to spend a little more time and give Fitzpatrick, some legitimate applause, some attention here, because it changes the way Norvell is able to completely call the game when he can trust that he has a kicker. And when he was called, he stepped up, he knocked them through with no issues, no challenges. Even second half, there was a couple of kickoffs. He was kicking into the wind. He still put a decent amount of force on the balls. Man, great special teams. Great special teams.
Phil, you got any closing comments on the LSU game?
Man, we didn't speak about it on air, right? But we talked about just something wasn't adding up, right? We knew what at worst what our offense was capable of. But then Vegas kept telling us we were 3.5, then 2.5, then the morning of 1.5 point underdogs. And we were just for me personally, I'm like, what does Vegas know that we don't know? Because something's not adding up here. And so clearly I believe it's just the rest of the world truly didn't believe that Florida State was back. And I don't need to see 10 more games to tell you that Florida State's back. I really don't. I feel like the only way we fall flat on our face is due to injury at this point. And I mean, Florida State's back, fellas. This team is back. Not because we won a big game. It's because we have talent at all levels. We have depth at all levels. And we have athletes. Athletes.
To that point, and this is a perfect segue, I am amending my previous prediction in wins losses. We do not lose a regular season game. We don't lose at Clemson, which I previously predicted as a loss. After what I saw, after seeing Bell, Coleman, Bless Harris,
I'm going to reserve that to after I watch.
So here's
that wasn't in the notes, bro. You can't just come out here and do that, bro. That's not in the notes.
Here's my only asterisk. If we stay healthy at key positions.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So
I mean, I picked us to beat Clemson. I just want to put that out there, world.
You did, but I'm saying we beat Clemson and then continue to run the table. Regular season, zero losses. There's no losses in the regular season. So I'm taking my loss to Clemson back, and I'm sticking with the rest of my scheduled wins. No losses. After what I saw, this team's ready.
Well, I'm going to allow you to be able to own this one. You can't own the Keon Coleman, but we're going to allow you to own the 12-0.
Oh,
and
man.
I will jump on that bandwagon. Not that bandwagon, but I'm a believer too. After a performance like this, my question is, why not?
Why not?
Russell Westbrook.
All right, gentlemen. Last order of business before we close this podcast out. We did draft a fantasy team last week. And how do you want to do this? Just call it the points? Call it highlights? Well, I mean, how do you...
Just call it the points. I mean, I believe your team's the only players that scored touchdowns. So,
oh yeah, all of them not named Travis, by the way.
Yeah. So that's expected. However, as far as the season goes, I really, really like my outlook, especially having Rodney Hill and LT.
Yeah,
I really like my outlook as far as the season goes. And even Wilson didn't give me touchdowns, but he still gave me 100 yards receiving.
All right. So after week 1,
can we trade? Anybody want Portier?
No, we're good.
It's a long season. It's a long season.
Well, hold on. If we can include either Hill or LT, and I will trade you Keziah Holmes and somebody else.
Who's somebody else? Somebody else has to be a receiver.
Well, Winston Wright.
I'm good. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
All right, listen. So week 1, third place, Croc. You stay in third place, my guy. 44 points. Your high scorer for the game was Renardo Green.
Don't do that.
Doing large part.
Don't do that, Phil. Because if Wilson doesn't have all them yards, you'd be right there with me. Chill.
But he did. He did.
Renardo Green was the highlight for you. He obviously the interception helped. He had a 10 spot for you. So 44 points for Croc. Second place with 54 points. Phil.
I feel like I should have had more than 54.
Yeah, you over here. I feel like I should have more.
I feel like I should have had more than 54. Between Johnny and LT.
Well, LT got you 8. Johnny got you 17.
What did Farmer give me? Farmer had a sack.
Farmer got you 9.
Thank you.
Okay. Tatum got you 9. Shaheem got you 7, and then a bunch of nothings. So,
Shaheem, baby, the safety of the future.
My number one pick.
We already know.
President of the fan club. He scored 5 points by himself, less than Croc. Entire team.
We just said numbers. We didn't say all this extra commentary that you give. Said numbers.
Keep going.
You over here setting up his own alley-oop.
Keep going, bro. Keep going.
Yeah. I'm in first place after week 1 with 87 points.
Oh, I liked it. I like that.
My
deficit's not that.
It's 30 points. That's a lot.
What you talking about, Phil?
Yeah, that's a lot.
I'm okay with that. Like listen. I don't foresee many more games where
you sound like the LSU fans right now. I don't see any more teams like Florida State in our schedule until
where Coleman and Bell are the only 2 players that score.
You sound like LSU right now. Until we play Tuscaloosa, I don't see anybody like Florida State.
And you sound like Vanderbilt. Stop talking to me.
You got 10 more points than me, bro.
Who's the second? Who's the third? I'm going to win.
Are you in first?
I'm going to win.
So let me ask. So Keon Coleman had 39 by himself. Jaheim had 18. DJ Lundy had 10. And then I had, AZ had 6. Akeem Dent had 5 tackles. And I don't know when that happened in the game, but that's what the stat book said.
Had to be early on.
So anyway, but I'm going to ask you guys now, do you want to just shut this down now?
Bro, first of all, you're talking to the defending champion. So you must be addressing that to Croc because I've been at the mountaintop.
You talking about last year, bro?
I know how to draft a team.
I'm just asking.
Croc, we're a year and a week into this whole fantasy thing we do. And I don't think you've ever won a week. You've never, not even been in first place. You've never won a week.
We have something in
stop
common.
Talking to me.
We have something in common.
No, we don't.
This is 2023, 2024, and you've never won a week.
I said you've never. I said a year in a week.
And this year, this season, you've never won a week.
But the difference is
there's no difference. There's
my team has a chance. That's the difference. My team has a chance.
It doesn't seem like it.
It does though.
That's what I'm asking. If we want to just shut this down, I can even see if Miko can delete last week's podcast.
Listen. As long as I have Johnny Wilson and running back 2 and 3, I'm good.
If y'all think every week Benson is not going to tote that rock for 100+, y'all are crazy.
Nobody said that.
So
did you have Benson last year?
Yeah.
Okay, stop talking to me.
So what's the point? What's the point?
Exactly. What's your point?
Wait, hold on.
Listen.
No, seriously though. Let's regain some modicum of composure here. No, I think I started it.
You mad at me because Weedy kicking your behind.
If he's kicking my behind, what is he doing to you?
So direct that energy to him.
I already said what I had.
That's a very losing mentality you have.
You're
celebrating second place.
My initial response was, You're
celebrating second place.
I said I like the spot that I'm in.
Are you an 80s or a 90s baby?
Oh my God!
Did you grow up getting a certificate of participation?
I simply said I like the spot that
2 is not a winner and 3 nobody remembers.
So
it's only about number 1.
Who are you?
Right now I'm 3.
Who are you?
Right now I'm 3.
What's your name?
Right now I'm 3. And what are you right now?
Okay, I'm just saying. You said nobody remembers 3.
So gentlemen.
Talk to us. Talk to us when you
seriously. Hold on. Back to order, please. One thing I did want to ask your opinion on: do you guys think it may be worth putting a negative effect if a player causes a 15-yard penalty? Because let's be honest, you don't really do that in real fantasy football. But if we're talking about just focusing on, real fantasy football, you don't draft from one team, right? So if we're doing this through the view or the lens of Florida State and kind of making our fandom a little bit more fun, if you will, I think that if someone has a face mask or someone has a pass interference called against them that's a drive killer or whatever, I think that should have a negative effect on the stat sheet.
The only reason why I don't think so
go ahead.
is because, that's primarily talking to defense. Late hits.
Well, Johnny had one. I didn't agree with the call, but
pass interference.
And that's why I'm not for it, because it's very subjective.
Yeah, but if the flag hits the ground, it's a metric you can track, though.
Yeah, but it's a metric that can also be BS. Like, we all saw Johnny Wilson's pass interference. Like, he literally tried to run a post and the guy hugged him and he got
grabbed him to try to keep. Yes. He grabbed him to try to keep from falling down. I get it.
Yes.
Okay.
So
all right.
I don't think. However, I would like to bring back to the table adding an additional flex.
So you can pick up Douglas. Man, let's close. Hey,
y'all have. I don't need.
The fans don't want to hear this, man. The fans don't want to hear this, man. We had a great pod.
I don't want to hear you.
We had a great pod. Somebody's in his feelings because he didn't win a week.
That's how champions operate.
This is wrong with you.
Clearly, you're comfortable.
I'm not. I'm ready for next week.
Speaking of next week, Florida State back in Tallahassee, Southern Miss. First home game. Florida State's going to dominate. Hey, I hope we see Brock Glenn. That's my hope for Southern Miss.
So let me ask you this then. You say you hope we see Brock Glenn. Will Brock Glenn be the first quarterback off the bench or the second?
Nah, he won't. He may not even be second. I'm just saying if we see Brock Glenn play, that means the score is looking very good in our favor. And we're able to dump
second. He got to be second.
He's not coming in before Tate. That's not happening.
Right. I think Tate's coming in, but he's coming in after Tate.
I hope to find out.
We will. All
right, gentlemen. I feel like that's pretty good. Pretty good. Down goes LSU. Florida State starts 1-0. Huge win. Huge win. Let's keep it moving, fellas. Let's move on to 2-0. We'll reconvene next week. 3rd and 0.
Yeah.